Do you know where you are going today? Not where your feet will carry you, but where your life is headed. I ask because most of you rise each morning more exhausted than when you lay down, not from lack of sleep, but from lack of purpose. You are tired because your soul wanders without direction. Listen, a ship without a port can never find a favorable wind. You labor endlessly, yet arrive nowhere. Your days dissolve into restless motion, meetings, obligations, pursuits, but when night falls, can you say what you have built? This fatigue you feel is not of the body. It is the exhaustion of a mind that chases everything and holds nothing. Today, I will show you why you wake weary and how to rise with the quiet strength that comes from knowing your course. By the time we finish our conversation, you will understand the true cause of your daily exhaustion, and it has nothing to do with how many hours you sleep. You will see clearly why you wake already drained, why your days feel like endless labor, and why, despite all your activity, you sense that you are building nothing of substance. I know this exhaustion. I have lived it. I have watched others consumed by it, and I have found the remedy, not in rest, but in purpose. Let me tell you what your life looks like right now, though we have never met. You wake tired, not from lack of rest, but from lack of meaning. Your days blur together because they follow no coherent direction. You are busy with everything, yet committed to nothing. You pursue what others value without asking what you yourself should value. You feel the weight of wasted time, but do not know how to reclaim it. You mistake motion for progress, activity for accomplishment. Am I wrong? I think not. This is the condition of most people. They are exhausted not because they work too hard, but because they work without aim. I do not speak to you as a merchant of quick solutions or shallow encouragements. I speak from 50 years of observing human nature in palaces and prisons, in times of plenty and times of collapse. I have seen the most powerful people in Rome waste away in exhaustion despite their leisure, and I have seen simple people radiate strength despite their burdens. The difference was never wealth, position, or circumstances. The difference was always this: those with an aim lived, those without merely existed. What I offer is not comfort, it is clarity, not distraction from your weariness, but the source of it and the remedy. The philosophers of old did not teach us to sleep better. They taught us to live better. When you live with a clear aim, rest becomes natural. Purpose energizes what aimlessness depletes. You believe you need more time. You need more direction. You think you are tired from doing too much. You are tired from doing too little that matters. You assume your exhaustion is physical. It is existential. You search for external success. You need internal coherence. These are the misconceptions that trap you in endless weariness. I do not teach theory. I teach from observation and trial. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have counseled those who held the power of life and death. I have faced exile, loss, and the nearness of my own mortality. Through it all, one principle sustained me: know where you are going, or you will never arrive. This is not philosophy for the academy. This is instruction for living, tested by time, refined by experience, proven by those who walked before us. By the end of this teaching, you will possess something you may not have had in years: a clear understanding of what your life should be building toward and how to order your days accordingly. Your weariness will begin to lift, not because you will sleep more, but because you will finally know what you are waking for. Let me take you back to a time when I learned this lesson myself, when my own aimlessness nearly consumed me. These are not fables. These are the lived experiences that taught me what I now share with you. In my younger years in Rome, I knew a man of great industry. He was always the first to arrive at the forum, the last to leave his duties. His correspondence never ceased. His appointments filled every hour. People spoke of him with admiration. "There is a man who knows how to work," they said. Yet whenever I encountered him, I saw not contentment but a peculiar agitation, the look of someone perpetually behind, perpetually catching up, perpetually exhausted. One evening I found him in the baths, staring at nothing. "You look as though you have run from one end of the empire to the other," I said. He laughed bitterly. "I feel as though I have, and I cannot remember why I was running." I asked him then what I ask you now. What is it all for? All this motion, all this labor. What are you building? He went silent. For the first time in perhaps years, he was forced to confront a truth he had been fleeing. He had no answer. He was not building toward anything. He was simply doing, endlessly, exhaustingly, pointlessly. This man had confused activity with achievement, busyness with purpose. He woke tired because each day was a repetition of the last, leading nowhere. His energy was spent not in building something, but in simply staying in motion. Within 2 years, his health collapsed. Not from overwork, from purposelessness. The body can endure remarkable strain when it serves a clear end, but ask it to labor for nothing, and it will eventually refuse. Perhaps you see yourself in him. You too rise each day into a schedule that others have built for you, obligations, expectations, routines. You move through them dutifully, yet inside you feel a growing emptiness. You are tired not because you have done too much, but because what you have done has not accumulated into anything you can point to and say, "This is what my life is building." That weariness you feel, it is your soul protesting its aimless wandering. But this man's story does not end there, and neither does yours. For I learned from him, and he eventually learned, that the cure for this exhaustion is not rest, it is aim. I once observed 2 merchants who sold their wares in the same marketplace. Both worked long hours. Both handled similar goods. Both dealt with the same customers and challenges. Yet one always appeared serene, even in difficulty, while the other seemed perpetually frantic and drained. The difference fascinated me. The frantic merchant was everywhere at once, adjusting his display, haggling over prices, worrying about competitors, calculating what he might earn if circumstances were different. His mind never rested. Each night he tallied his coins with anxiety, wondering if it was enough, if tomorrow would be better or worse. The serene merchant, by contrast, had a kind of stillness about him. He too worked diligently, but there was no franticness in it. When I asked him his secret, he said simply, "I know what I am working toward. I need enough to support my family with dignity, to have time in the evenings for study, and to set aside a small portion for times of need. When I reach this aim each day, I am content. I do not chase every opportunity because I know which opportunities serve my purpose and which would merely distract me." The frantic merchant had no such measure. He could never earn enough because he did not know what enough meant. He had no aim beyond more, and more is a horizon that forever recedes. So he exhausted himself in pursuit of something he could never reach because he had never defined where he was going. He woke tired because yesterday's efforts had brought him no closer to any actual destination. This is the plight of most people. They have no clear aim, and so they have no sense of progress, no moment of arrival, no feeling of accomplishment. Every day is simply another day of striving without knowing what they are striving for. And this undefined, endless striving is what drains them more than any physical labor ever could. Now you may be asking, how do I become like the second merchant? How do I discover this aim? I will show you. But first, one more story, one that may be harder to hear. I have told you about others, but let me now tell you about myself. I am not exempt from this struggle. There were years, too many years, when I lived without a clear aim. I performed my duties in the courts of Rome. I wrote speeches, advised politicians, handled affairs of state. From the outside, I appeared successful, purposeful. Inside, I was hollow. I woke each morning into obligation. The Senate, the Forum, the endless demands of public life. I did what was expected, said what needed to be said, maintained the appearances that society required. And I was exhausted, not physically tired, though my body certainly felt the strain. No, I was tired in my spirit, tired of performing a role, tired of pursuing goals that others had set for me, tired of building a life that looked impressive but felt empty. It took exile to wake me, being torn from Rome, stripped of position, sent away to live in isolation. Suddenly, all the structures that had organized my days disappeared. No more Senate, no more public duties, no more crowds expecting things from me. And in that silence, I was forced to ask the question I had been avoiding. What do I actually want my life to be about? At first, the question terrified me. Without Rome's structures, who was I? What should I do? But slowly, in that solitude, clarity emerged. I realized that for years I had been living someone else's idea of a good life, success, position, influence. I had never stopped to ask what I considered a good life, and now, with nothing left but myself and my thoughts, I could finally answer. I wanted to live in accordance with reason. I wanted to understand truth. I wanted to help others find wisdom. Everything else, the wealth, the status, the public acclaim, was irrelevant to this aim. Once I had this clarity, everything changed. Not my circumstances. Those remained difficult, but my experience of those circumstances. I no longer woke, exhausted, because I knew what I was living for. Even when I labored, it was towards something I had chosen, something that aligned with my deepest values. The exhaustion lifted, not because my life became easier, but because it became coherent. This is what I offer you. The same clarity that saved me from those years of aimless drifting. You do not need to wait for exile or crisis to discover your aim. You can choose it now, deliberately, and in choosing it, reclaim your life from the exhaustion of purposelessness. Now that you have seen this truth in story, let me teach you the principles beneath it. These are not my inventions. They are observations of how human nature works, tested over centuries of human experience. Your exhaustion is not primarily physical, it is existential. You wake tired because your soul has nowhere to go. Imagine a traveler who walks all day but circles the same ground repeatedly. This is your condition. Motion without progress. Labor without accumulation. Effort without destination. The human spirit requires aim the way the body requires food. Without it, we begin to wither, even as we go through the motions of living. Why? Because we are rational beings. We cannot thrive in meaningless activity. When our days lack coherent direction, when Monday's efforts do not connect to Tuesday's, when this year builds nothing upon last year, our minds sense the futility and begin to shut down. The weariness you feel is your soul's protest against this waste. There are 3 forms of aimless exhaustion. First, the exhaustion of scattered attention. You wake tired because you are trying to move in 10 directions at once. Your attention is fragmented among dozens of competing demands, each pulling you a different way. By evening, you have not advanced in any meaningful direction. You have merely spun in circles. This scattering of focus is not restful. It is depleting. Second, the exhaustion of empty achievement. You accomplish many things, yet feel you have accomplished nothing. Why? Because your achievements do not serve any larger purpose. They are isolated events, disconnected from a greater aim. You check boxes, complete tasks, meet obligations, but none of it accumulates into something you can point to and say, "This is what I am building." The soul finds no satisfaction in busy work, only in meaningful work. Third, the exhaustion of living for others. You wake tired because you are living someone else's life. Your days are filled with what others expect, what society demands, what convention requires, but none of it is truly yours. You are an actor playing a role you never auditioned for, and playing a false part, day after day, is perhaps the most exhausting thing a human can do. Consider two people, one who spends 8 hours building a house, another who spends 8 hours wandering aimlessly through streets. Which one will be more tired at day's end? The wanderer, always. The builder's exhaustion is clean, the weariness of productive effort. The wanderer's exhaustion is poisonous, the weariness of wasted time. You are the wanderer, and until you become the builder, you will continue to wake already tired. But this is not permanent. Your exhaustion is not a flaw in your character or a failure of willpower. It is simply the natural consequence of aimlessness. And because it is rooted in aimlessness, it can be cured by aim. Set a clear direction for your life, and watch how quickly your energy returns. An aim is not a goal. Goals are temporary. You achieve them, and they disappear. An aim is the constant star by which you navigate all goals. It is the principle that gives shape to your life, the standard against which you measure all choices. Without an aim, you are like a ship with no port in mind. Every wind is wrong because no wind is right. Most people confuse wishes with aims. I wish to be wealthy. I wish to be respected. I wish to be happy. These are not aims. They are vague desires with no principle beneath them. An aim must be something you can orient your life around, not something you passively hope will happen to you. True aim cannot depend on what is outside your control. If your aim is to become wealthy, you are at the mercy of fortune. Markets collapse, opportunities vanish, circumstances change. But if your aim is to live according to reason or to act virtuously in all circumstances, these are within your power always. An aim must be internal, or it is not truly yours. You cannot have 5 aims. That is not living with purpose. That is living in confusion. An aim must be singular, clear, and supreme. Everything you do should either serve this aim or be eliminated. If you try to serve multiple masters, you will exhaust yourself in the conflict. Your aim is the lens through which you view all of life. It answers the question, why am I doing this? For me, the aim became to live in accordance with virtue and reason. Every decision, every relationship, every use of time was measured against this standard. Does this action align with my aim? Then I do it. Does it contradict my aim? Then I refuse it, no matter how attractive it appears. With an aim, decisions become simple. Not easy, but simple. You no longer agonize over every choice because you have a clear standard. Should I take this opportunity? Does it serve my aim? Should I spend time with this person? Does it align with my values? The aim eliminates confusion. With an aim, you can finally tell whether your life is advancing or stalling. Without it, you have no metric. But with it, each day becomes measurable. Did I live today in accordance with my aim? Then today was a success, regardless of what external results occurred. This gives you something that aimlessness never can: The satisfaction of knowing you are building something real. Think of true aims: to live virtuously in all circumstances, to cultivate wisdom and share it with others, to act with integrity regardless of consequence, to develop reason and discipline the passions, to serve truth above comfort. Notice, none of these depend on external success. All are within your power. All are constant. All can organize an entire life. Here is the test. Does your aim remain valid whether you are rich or poor, praised or scorned, healthy or sick? If external circumstances can destroy your aim, it is not a true aim. It is merely a preference for certain outcomes. True aim is internal, constant, and unshakable. Aimlessness is not a passive condition. It actively makes your life more difficult in every dimension. Like a poison that spreads, it touches everything: your decisions, your relationships, your use of time, your mental peace. Without an aim, every choice becomes a crisis. Should you take this job? Pursue this relationship? Move to this city? Without a guiding principle, you have no way to evaluate these options. You freeze, you second-guess, you agonize, not because the decisions are inherently difficult, but because you have no framework for making them. Each choice feels arbitrary because it is arbitrary, and so you exhaust yourself in endless deliberation, or worse, you make decisions based on whatever is most convenient or popular in the moment. Without your own aim, you become subject to everyone else's. Your colleague wants you to work late. Your neighbor wants you to keep up with their lifestyle. Society wants you to pursue status and wealth. And without an internal compass, you cannot say no. You are blown about by every wind of opinion, every demand, every expectation. This is not freedom, it is slavery, and it is exhausting. Everything seems equally important when nothing is truly important. You treat urgent trivialities with the same energy as genuine necessities. You spend as much time choosing what to wear as you do considering how to live. Without an aim to distinguish what matters from what doesn't, you drain yourself on 1,000 irrelevant concerns. Even when you achieve something, you feel no lasting satisfaction. Why? Because the achievement doesn't connect to anything larger. You get the promotion, but so what? You finish the project, but what has it built? Without an aim, every accomplishment is hollow, temporary pleasure followed by the return of emptiness. And this cycle of brief satisfaction and renewed emptiness is deeply fatiguing. Aimlessness creates a vicious cycle. Without direction, you make poor choices. Poor choices lead to regret. Regret leads to paralysis. Paralysis leads to more aimless drifting. Each day you delay setting an aim, the harder it becomes to set one, because you accumulate more confusion, more contradictions, more reasons to avoid the question entirely. But understand this: the moment you set a clear aim, all of this reverses. Decisions become simpler. Others' opinions lose their power over you. Priorities clarify themselves. Achievements become meaningful because they serve your chosen purpose. The relief is immediate and profound. This is why I urge you, do not delay. Each day without aim is a day of unnecessary suffering. A clear aim unifies what aimlessness fragments. Instead of living a dozen disconnected lives, the professional self, the family self, the public self, the private self, you become one coherent person. Your actions in one sphere reinforce rather than contradict your actions in another. This unity is immensely energizing. I cannot overstate how much mental energy you waste when you lack an aim. Every decision requires deliberation from scratch, but with an aim, most decisions make themselves. Does this serve my purpose? Yes or no? The complexity vanishes. You are freed to act with confidence and speed, knowing that your choices flow from a consistent principle. People think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But true discipline emerges naturally from aim. When you know where you're going, you don't need to force yourself to take the right path. You simply recognize it and walk it. The effort shifts from internal battle to natural alignment. Here is perhaps the greatest gift of a true aim: freedom from dependence on external circumstances. If your aim is virtue, you can pursue it in poverty as well as wealth, in health as well as sickness, in success as well as failure. Fortune can take many things from you, but she cannot take your aim unless you surrender it. This makes you free in a way that those who depend on external goals can never be. When your efforts accumulate toward a single end, they compound. Each day builds on the last. Progress becomes visible. Momentum develops. This is the opposite of aimless activity, where every day starts from zero and leads nowhere. With aim, you are not just expending energy, you are investing it, and invested energy returns dividends. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, a clear aim gives you tranquility. You know who you are. You know what you're building. You know what matters and what doesn't. This knowledge settles the mind. Even in difficulty, you have an anchor. You may not control what happens to you, but you control how you respond, because your response is guided by your unchanging aim. You cannot borrow an aim from someone else, any more than you can borrow their digestion. It must be yours, genuinely yours, or it will not sustain you. This requires honest self-examination, the kind most people avoid their entire lives. First question: what do I actually value? Not what you're supposed to value, not what your parents valued, or what your peers admire. What do you consider most important? Virtue, wisdom, love, beauty, truth, justice, security? Be honest. Most people have never truly asked themselves this question. They assume they know, but they don't. They've simply absorbed the values around them without examination. Sit with this question. Write down your answer. Then ask, do my daily actions reflect this value? If not, you have found the source of your exhaustion. Second question, what would I defend at any cost? Your true values reveal themselves in what you refuse to compromise. If you would sacrifice anything for wealth, then wealth is your God, and you should admit it. If you would endure poverty rather than act unjustly, then justice is your priority. What are you unwilling to abandon, even if maintaining it costs you everything else? This is your foundation. Build your aim upon it. Third question, what do I want my life to have stood for? Imagine you are at the end. Looking back, what would make you feel that your life was worthwhile? Not what achievements you accumulated, but what character you embodied, what principles you upheld, what you were. This is your aim, not what you want to get, but what you want to become. Fourth question, what is within my power? This is crucial. Your aim must be something you can always pursue, regardless of external circumstances. If your aim depends on health, wealth, or others' approval, you have built on sand. The wise person's aim is always internal. Virtue, reason, integrity, wisdom. These you can pursue whether the world smiles on you or frowns. When you have answered these questions honestly, distill your answers to one clear principle. Not a paragraph, not a list. One guiding star. For me, live according to virtue and reason. Everything I do is measured against this. It is simple, internal, constant, and fully within my power. Find yours. Understanding is worthless without application. Let me now give you specific practices, daily exercises that will help you establish your aim and live by it. These are not abstract theories. They are tools I use myself and have taught to others. Before you rise each morning while you are still in bed, before you check any device or speak to anyone, ask yourself one question. What is my aim today? Not your schedule, not your obligations, your aim. What principle will guide all you do today? This single question sets your internal compass before the world has a chance to spin it. Most people wake and immediately surrender control to external demands. The phone rings, the messages arrive, the obligations press in. You react rather than act, but if you begin by setting your aim, you reclaim agency. You decide in advance what today will be about. Lie still for 1 minute. State your aim clearly, either aloud or in your mind. Today I will act with integrity. Today I will choose wisdom over comfort. Today I will be guided by reason, not passion. Simple, clear, brief. This takes 60 seconds, but it orients your entire day. Done daily, this practice gradually trains your mind to default to your aim rather than to others' expectations. Over weeks and months, you will notice yourself automatically filtering choices through this principle. Decision fatigue decreases, clarity increases, the exhaustion of aimlessness begins to lift. Every evening, before sleep, review your day against your aim. Not to punish yourself for failures, but to learn and adjust. Ask 3 questions. Did I live according to my aim today? Where did I deviate? And why? What will I do differently tomorrow? Without review, we repeat the same errors endlessly. We drift, make mistakes, feel vaguely guilty, and then drift again. But deliberate examination breaks this cycle. You shine light on your patterns, you identify where you lost your way, and most importantly, you recommit to your aim before the next day begins. Set aside 10 minutes before bed, no distractions. Replay the day's key moments. When did you face a choice? Did you choose in accordance with your aim, or did you choose out of habit, fear, or desire for approval? Be honest. If you failed, don't wallow. Simply note it and resolve to do better. If you succeeded, acknowledge it. This is not about perfection. It's about awareness. You will begin to see patterns. Perhaps you always lose your aim when tired, or when in certain company, or when feeling pressed for time. These patterns are valuable. They show you where you need to strengthen yourself. Over time, the same situations that once derailed you will become opportunities to practice your aim deliberately. Keep a journal of these evening examinations, not daily, but weekly or monthly summaries. After a year, read back through it. What once seemed impossible, maintaining your aim in difficulty, has become natural. This visible progress is itself motivating and energizing. Most of your exhaustion comes from doing too many things that don't serve your aim. Your calendar is full, but not with what matters. Your attention is divided among a dozen concerns, most of them irrelevant to your actual purpose. Once per week, review your commitments, relationships, and activities. Ask of each one, does this serve my aim, or does it merely serve convention, obligation, or habit? If it doesn't serve your aim, eliminate it or reduce it. Take 1 hour on Sunday. List everything that consumed time this past week. Meetings, social engagements, projects, worries, entertainment. Go through the list item by item. Be ruthless. That committee you're on, does it serve your aim? That social obligation, Does it align with your values? That worry you carried all week, does it change anything? Or does it merely drain you? You will discover that most of what fills your life is unnecessary. You keep doing it because you've always done it, or because others expect it, or because you're afraid of what will happen if you stop. But when you measure everything against a clear aim, most of it reveals itself as mere distraction. And distraction, no matter how pleasant or respectable, is exhausting. Eliminate obligations without purpose, relationships that drain rather than nourish, projects that serve someone else's agenda, not yours. Worry about things outside your control. Pursuit of goals you don't actually care about. Entertainment that numbs rather than restores. Protect time for self-examination. Relationships that support your aim. Work that aligns with your values. Practices that strengthen your character. Moments of stillness and reflection. Your life will become simpler, not easier necessarily, but simpler, and simplicity is deeply restful. When you wake each morning into a life that serves one clear aim rather than a dozen contradictory demands, the exhaustion lifts naturally. Every day brings choices: where to direct your energy, what opportunities to pursue, what to say yes or no to. Without a filter, these choices exhaust you through sheer volume and ambiguity. Before saying yes to any new commitment, request, or opportunity, pause and ask, does this serve my aim? Not, could this be good or might this lead somewhere, but simply, does this serve my stated aim? When someone asks for your time, your help, your participation, pause. Even 5 seconds. Ask the question internally. If the answer is clearly yes, proceed. If the answer is no, decline politely. If you're uncertain, say, let me consider this, and respond tomorrow. Then, apply the question more thoroughly that evening. This single practice will save you countless hours and enormous energy. You will stop saying yes to things that drain you. You will stop accumulating obligations that pull you away from what matters. Your schedule will begin to reflect your actual priorities rather than others' expectations. Many people fear that saying no will damage relationships or close opportunities. But here is the truth. People respect those who know what they stand for. When you consistently decline what doesn't serve your aim and commit fully to what does, you build a reputation for integrity and focus. This actually increases others' respect for you. We have walked a long path together today, you and I. Let me gather up the thread of what we have explored. You wake tired because you live without aim. This is not a failure of discipline or a weakness of character. It is simply what happens when a rational being tries to live an irrational life. Your soul was made for purpose, and in the absence of purpose, it withers. All the coffee, all the rest, all the strategies for better sleep will fail you as long as this fundamental problem remains unaddressed. The exhaustion you feel each morning is existential, not merely physical. It is your spirit protesting the waste of days that lead nowhere, efforts that build nothing, motion without direction. You have been trying to solve a problem of meaning with solutions of comfort, and they cannot work. True aim is not a goal you achieve and discard. It is the constant star that guides every choice, the principle against which you measure every action. It must be internal, within your power, and unchanging. When you have this, decisions simplify, energy returns, and the exhaustion begins to lift. Aimlessness makes everything harder. Decisions paralyze you, others control you, achievements satisfy you only briefly, and every day starts from zero. But aim makes everything clearer. You know what to pursue and what to refuse. You become immune to fortune's whims, and your efforts compound towards something real. I have given you 4 specific exercises, each simple enough to begin today. Each morning, before rising, set your aim for the day. Each evening, review how you lived. and adjust for tomorrow. Each week, simplify your commitments to align with your aim, and in every decision, pause to ask whether it serves your purpose. These practices are not burdens, they are liberations. They free you from the exhaustion of aimless living and restore the energy that comes from coherent purpose. Know this with certainty. You do not have to live this way. The weariness you carry is not your permanent condition. It is the temporary consequence of a temporary problem, aimlessness, and it can be remedied starting now. Set an aim, one clear principle to guide your life. Then wake each day in service to that aim. Watch how quickly the fog lifts. Watch how your exhaustion transforms into energy, your confusion into clarity, your aimless wandering into purposeful movement. You were not made to wander, you were made to build. And when you know what you are building, when you can point to your aim and say, "This is what my life serves," you will discover a strength and peace that no amount of external success could ever provide. The tired, aimless person you were when we began this conversation does not have to be who you are tomorrow. Choose your aim tonight. Wake tomorrow with purpose. And let that be the first day of a life no longer wasted. If this teaching has opened your eyes to the truth of your condition, do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving the wisdom that has sustained thoughtful people for centuries. Philosophy is not a single lesson. And I will be here to guide you. Second, if this resonated with your experience, if you recognized yourself in these words, press the like button. This tells me that speaking truth, even uncomfortable truth, serves you better than empty encouragement. Third, and most important, go to the comments and tell me what your aim will be. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. What is the single principle you will organize your life around? Write it down. Commit to it publicly. Let this be the moment your aimless life ends and your purposeful life begins. I have taught you what I know. Now the work is yours. Go well.